Hello and welcome to Tarot Arts Anjali. In today's pick a card reading, we're going to look at everything about your future spouse in terms of how you'll meet them, when you'll meet them, and what is the first impression that you'll both have of each other, and just some additional guidance and blessings about the connection. So, pick any of these three piles. We have the Wild Unknown Tarot, the traditional Rider Waite deck, and the Light Seer's Tarot. The timestamps are in the description, and I'll see you in your reading. Hello, and welcome to your reading pile number one. We're going to look at all the messages that we have about your future spouse. And remember, this is a reading for the collective. For a personal reading, you can find all the details in the description. So let's start with your reading. Spirit, how is pile 1 going to meet their future spouse? Can you please tell us how pile 1 is going to meet their future spouse? When is this meeting? When is this encounter going to happen, Spirit? What is the first impression that pile 1 will have about their future spouse? And what will their future spouse's first impression be? What are the blessings that this connection will bring into your life? And then we have your back of the deck energy, which is the Hermit. So, pile number one thing that I can see in terms of the signs that we have present here, we have three pentacle cards. So the earth sign could be significant. So either you or your future spouse could have earth signs as your dominant energies, which is your sun, moon, or rising. So take that message as it resonates, or it could even be talking about the month or the time frame when you are meeting that person. So but overall, because there are so many of these earth signs present here, and even the Hermit, which is the sign of Virgo, also is that earth energy. So I'm definitely getting a sense that overall this connection, this marriage, or whatever this form of connection looks like with your future spouse is going to be something which is very grounded, very rooted, and it gives you a sense of stability. And one thing that I can definitely see is if you are single or if you have recently gone through any heartbreak or breakup of some sort, then it could be something that has left you with a sense of feeling unstable, feeling that you're lacking this sort of safety that you need in your life, and you're lacking the stability that you have desired from connections. So if that is a need that you have, that you want a connection to be very peaceful, to be calm, to be grounded, and for there to be a lot of practicality and just this sense of safety, then definitely that is something that you're going to experience in your relationship with your future spouse. So starting off with how you're going to meet your partner, your future spouse, we have the Three of Pentacles. So there are a couple of messages that I see here. For those of you who are students, you could be meeting this person in an educational setting. So maybe your classmates, or maybe there's a collaboration or a teamwork that is happening, maybe a project that you're doing together, an assignment that's taking place together, or maybe this person could be your classmate, your batchmate, or someone that you encounter in some sort of a learning environment, a learning situation. So it could be that this connection starts off as, there is not a very clear expectation that things are going to be romantic or you're going to get into a relationship. And maybe even in the phase that you are in right now, you might not even be immediately looking for a connection or that deeper level of commitment. So it could be that you meet this person, you get to know about their skills, their talents, and just through how the conversation develops, you might then get to know each other on a bit deeper level. But even in the beginning, there's not a very clear expectation that you are going to get into a relationship, or maybe at the beginning stages of this connection, there might not be a very open or a deep conversation about the extent of feelings that you have towards each other. So that could be something that both of you decide mutually without even speaking to each other, that you're not going to reveal those feelings in the beginning because you value your connection so much. So you're both going to take your time, and that is also something that we see with the Pentacles suit as a whole, because that is one of the slowest suits in tarot. So these things, the everything to do with the earth energy, it takes its time to grow, it takes its time to evolve. And that is also what I'm seeing in this connection, that you're slowly and gradually getting to know each other on a deeper level. You're sharing your interests, your views and beliefs, and just the way that you see life in general and what your expectations are. And you might even, before getting into a relationship, you might even be having these conversations about how you envision your future family to be, your future self to be, what all are these values that you have and these things that you want in your life. And when you get to know on a deeper level, that's when things are evolving. If you are a working professional, so maybe there could be training that's taking place, maybe you're traveling somewhere for work related purposes, or there is some form of maybe a team bound activity or something of that sort, because we have the mountains here, and the three of pentacles is typically also about some form of learning, some form of collaboration. So this could be, either it is that you're meeting in an outdoor setting in some place where definitely there's a group that's involved. You're not alone in this setting, you're not having this encounter with your future spouse just one on one, rather it's in a group, and then this person stands out for you, and that's how these feelings develop, and then you eventually get to know each other. And in terms of when this is going to happen, we have the Five of Wands. So, as I was saying, maybe for some of you, this meeting, this encounter with your future spouse could be immediately followed by a major change that takes place in your life. So, for example, you have recently relocated to a new location for work, and there are all these different adjustments that you have to go through. And especially moving into a new place, there are so many things that you need to take into account, and so many changes that are happening. There are all these things that take your attention, and even with the Five of Wands, we see that there are these scattered energies or too many demands that you have at the moment, too many things on your plate. So it could be, so one example could be you've recently relocated to a place for work or for your studies, or maybe for some of you it's a new job that you started, so there's a lot of learning that's involved in the beginning, and you're just getting a hold of these different responsibilities. And just because everything that's happening, you might not even have that energy at that moment to even think about a romantic connection. And in that setting, in that sort of an energy that you're in, you might unexpectedly find this person around you in your team, in your group, or just someone who's present around you, and you don't see that person as someone you would have romantic feelings for, or you might not even initially envision having a relationship with this person. And for some of you, I'm also seeing that if this encounter happens immediately, or at least a little while after you've experienced some sort of a heartbreak, so you're not too ready or too willing to invest your energy into this person, or to even think about relationships, especially if you're asking this question about your future spouse. So some of you could be in this energy where you're done with connections that are just on a superficial level, or things that happen for a short term and then they don't really evolve into something. So if that is an energy that you are present in right now, or this could be the energy that you're in right before you meet this person, and that's especially confirmed with the Hermit card here, because you might be in your shell, in your safe space, in your comfort zone. And maybe some of you, if you've already learned to be by yourself and enjoy your own company, you're getting a lot of joy out of it, and you know that there are these other things that you need to work on, which is your personal goals. It could be to do with your career, your finances, this wealth that you want to create for yourself, or maybe there's a purpose that you have, and there are these big dreams and goals that you have that you want to fulfill. So you're working towards those things, and those are the things that you are focusing more on. So you might not even be that open to dating or to inviting a connection in your life. And that could be something that even confuses the other person, because they might feel that you, even if you do feel that attraction towards that person, but because there are these other things around you, or these other priorities that you have, that person could be a little bit confused whether you are even interested in them, or you're interested in pursuing these. But the only message for you here is there's definitely a strong connection that's going to evolve. And as I mentioned in the beginning of your reading, that this relationship as a whole is going to be so grounded and so rooted, which is what we have with all this earth imagery in this card. So overall, there is safety, there is protection in this connection. So if you do find yourself in this situation where you have encountered this person, and you also know that this person is going to be someone that you can envision a future with, but you are afraid in the beginning to get out of this hermit zone, or to make yourself vulnerable or open again to get into a relationship, make sure at that point you're not brushing off this opportunity, or you're not pushing aside this person because of all these fears that you have. So one guidance for you is that right now at this moment, if you haven't yet met that person, if this connection hasn't happened yet, so use this time to heal any past wounds about these heartbreaks that you carry, or maybe any situation that has happened in the past which has made you a bit scared to be open and vulnerable with someone, or to reveal your deep feelings. So for some of you, there could actually be that maybe a past rejection is involved, where you had these or not even rejection, but maybe you had very deep feelings towards someone, but that person didn't just reciprocate those feelings, or they didn't have the feelings to that extent or that intensity that you did. So that made you feel very lonely, and that situation might have ended on a bad note. So now you're still in that phase of thinking that should I even invest my time and energy and love into another person, because what if that person doesn't love me back the same way, or what if that person doesn't have the same kind of expectations that I have. So if you are in that phase, I can definitely assure you that this future spouse, this person, is going to be someone who also shares the same ideas and values as you. So they are also going to want a deeper connection with you, a deeper commitment with you, and that can only happen when you have stepped out of your hermit zone, and you have little by little and gradually lower these boundaries or these walls that you've set around yourself. But remember, there is no need at all to rush in this connection. I feel that you are going to have the time to process things, time to make your decision slowly and gradually. And even your future spouse, this person that you're meeting, they are also not going to be someone who wants to rush things too much. So that's definitely a guarantee for you that this is not going to be something that you miss out on just because you don't make a decision quick enough. Rather, I'm seeing your future spouse to be a person who's going to be very patient. They are going to not rush you to make any decisions. And even if it so happens that your future spouse, that person is someone who reveals their feelings to you first. So even even in that situation, that person is not going to make you feel as if you have to immediately respond to them, or you have to immediately accept their proposal in whatever manner that might be. So, and that's also the reassurance for you that because you have all this time to consider and to take things slowly, you get a lot of time to truly reflect on if this connection aligns with your values, and if you truly do see yourself with this person. And maybe if in the past you have been impulsive with connections in terms of accepting any person in your life, or allowing any person to enter your life after maybe having shown the bare minimum, or maybe you could have aligned with people in the past on some aspects, but maybe there were other things that they didn't match up to your standards, but you still accepted that sort of a behavior. But in this connection, I'm seeing that you're truly taking your time to consider things fully, and even your future spouse is going to be someone who understands these concerns that you might have. So they're not rushing you into anything at all. And in terms of what your first impression of your future spouse is going to be, we see the Emperor card. So because this is the Emperor card, your future spouse might have Aries as in their chart, sun, moon, or rising, but it doesn't have to resonate. It could even be that this is just representing their traits. So with the Emperor, we see someone who is very confident, who is very assured about their own selves. They're very ambitious and they have their own goals in place. And that's what I'm seeing, that on this level, on this aspect, both of you are going to be very similar to each other, that both of you have your own goals, your own path, and there are these things that you want to do. Maybe both of you could be career oriented, you could be inclined towards creating a stability and safety for yourself, and that is a priority that both of you have. And because that is a value that you both connect with so deeply, that could be something that brings you two together in the first place, and that is going to be something that helps you nurture and create this relationship. Like with the symbol of the tree here, I get this strong sense of both of you coming together to put in efforts and to truly build this connection, and to see it grow and blossom into something that is so fruitful. And I see that even in the because this is about the first impression card, so even in the first meeting or in the first few instances of getting to know this person, you are so inspired by their ambition and their qualities about having a dream for themselves and doing all that it takes to achieve those goals, to achieve those dreams. And you find that to be such an attractive trait in that person. So maybe if you are in this situation and you encounter this person and there are all these qualities about them that you admire, so that could be a sign or a reassurance for you that this person is the one, and this person is someone that you can create that future that you are envisioning with. And you can also be assured that you will align on these beliefs and values, and this person is going to be someone who supports you in your own journey. And one main thing that I see here is, because both of you have these big goals and big desires, so it's not going to be like either of you compromising on your personal ends to make the relationship work. Rather, the relationship is going to be something which supports both of your personal goals, and it also helps you to create something together, to create this stability. And maybe if you want to have a family with this person eventually, I'm seeing that there are a lot of positive signs here for this connection to blossom into something where you can have a long term future. And because of all these earth energies, there might even be that this person is someone that you're going to spend your entire lifetime with. You're truly like this tree, you're blossoming and growing, and you're facing all seasons with each other. So no matter what challenges that come your way, you're going to stay together, you're going to stick by each other's sides. And so this was your first impression about your future spouse, but even their impression of you with this father of pentacles, which is the king of pentacles. So even your future spouse is going to identify that you are someone who is very focused on your goals, and there is this passion that you have, and your future spouse is going to recognize that. So as I mentioned earlier, that you might be meeting in a group setting or in a collaboration of some sort. So there, even if you are meeting in a group, the reason why you are going to stand out to your person, to your future spouse, is because they see this drive in you. They see how focused you are, how committed you are, and both of you are someone who value these traits in each other. And that's exactly what is going to make this first encounter with your future spouse so much more valuable. And you might even get this sense that from the first meeting itself, you get this sense of being drawn towards each other, and you can already, without even getting to know them and without having these deeper conversations with them, just through that initial interaction, you might get a feeling that, okay, this is the person that I've been dreaming about, or this is the kind of person that I want to establish something long term with. And as you get to know each other, and as you also lower your inhibitions, your walls a little bit, and you make yourself open to even accepting these feelings from that other person and accepting your own feelings, that's when this connection is truly going to evolve into something much more beautiful. And this is a sign which might only resonate for some of you in this reading, but because we have these rainbow colors here on the horns of the deer present in the king of pentacles, so some of you might identify as being part of the LGBTQIA plus community, so that could be a sign. So take that message only if it resonates. But for others, I see that there is this vision or this idea that you have, and these values that you have, that you both match up on a lot, and there is a lot that you could work on together, not just in terms of your relationships, but even in terms of building your life together. So actually, for some of you, you might even start a project with each other, start some form of business venture, some idea, something that you have in mind, and that is something that eventually also helps you establish your own wealth and create this safety and stability for you. So that could be a possibility. And finally, in terms of what blessings this connection with your spouse is bringing for you, we have the Six of Pentacles. And the Six of Pentacles is about generosity, it's about service, it's about having your needs fulfilled. And I'm seeing that both of you, as I mentioned, one possibility here is that you could, as a couple, you could be having this idea, this venture that provides some kind of service for the needy. Or even if that's not something that you do professionally, it could just be that both of you like some form of work, volunteering, maybe working with a charity of some sort, or you both of you are very generous individuals. You like to give back to the society, you like to play a part in making sure that everyone else around you in your community has the resources that they need. And even in your connection, I'm seeing that both of you are generous towards each other. So if maybe you on a personal level have certain needs, that you want reassurance in a connection, or you want commitment and open communication, so if these are the needs that you have which might not have been fulfilled in your past connections, so your future spouse is going to be someone who matches up to these needs that you have, and they are going to be someone who truly understand you. And this eventually also builds up with communication, that what are these needs that you have which haven't been met, or these certain expectations that you have in a connection. and something that might help you is thinking or just talking to each other about your own respective love style. So for example, there are some love styles such as acts of service or words of affirmation, things like that. So maybe if you are someone who really wants your spouse to spend quality time with you, so that could be a need that you express to them, and I'm seeing that your future spouse could match up to it. And at the same time, maybe if you have a need about, like, you need to be praised, or you need to be your if there are efforts that you've put in, so you want them to be acknowledged, you want your person, you want your partner to tell you that they appreciate these things about you. And maybe it could happen that these are things that have lacked in your past connections, and it made you feel a bit unsettled and unappreciated because your partner or your previous partners did not respond to you the way that you wanted. And now I'm seeing that there is so much generosity, there's so much reciprocation and mutual give and take that is in this connection. You're constantly learning about each other, you're constantly teaching each other about how is it that you want to be loved, what are these things that you like, what are these needs that you have. And I see that through this constant work and effort, you both establish a very positive and a very fulfilling connection with each other. And with that, I'm also going to pull out some cards for you from this monology deck just to get some more confirmation or more answers about what your connection with your future spouse is going to look like. So, Spirit, please give us some more confirmation about pile one's relationship with their future spouse. Some more clarification, please, Spirit. All right, so it's quite interesting that we have both Leo cards coming together, which is the full moon and the new moon in Leo. So the Leo sign could be important. So either you or your future spouse could have Leo as their sun, moon, or rising sign, or maybe the Leo time period is going to be significant in terms of when you're meeting this person, which is between July to August. So take that message how it resonates. And we also have the new moon in Libra. So, starting off with your first card, which is full moon in Leo, it says, don't let pride get in your way. So, the way that I interpret this message is, as I mentioned, that, you are someone who's very ambitious, and maybe even the setting that you're meeting this person in could be a work environment, a classroom environment, a learning environment, or some place that requires you to display your skills. And I see you and even your partner both of being someone who really values validation, who values success, who values achievement. And as I mentioned, that is a strong trait that is bringing both of you together. But a word of caution here is, don't, like, make sure that this ambition is something that unites you, that brings you together, and it gives you certain things to work on with each other rather than being something that you start disagreeing with. So, make sure that at least in the beginning of this connection there is no harsh competition that develops between the two of you. So if you are actually meeting in a team setting and that requires you to work together, so make sure that you are definitely honoring your own skills, talents, ambitions, these ideas and visions that you have for each other. But one major lesson that your connection with your future spouse is going to teach you is about healthy amount of competition and healthy level of compromises, where you're hearing each other out, you're not letting your goals be ignored or pushed aside, but at the same time you're not pushing them forward at the cost of someone else being unheard or someone else being put down. So with the don't let pride get in your way, with the full moon in Leo, that could be one energy about being a bit generous towards each other. And because we saw this generous card, so there is definitely a reassurance that as this connection develops and as you're getting to know each other better, that that's when you get to understand each other. But in the beginning of the connection, that's when this could cause a potential conflict where both of you are very ambitious and you have very strong ideas, very strong values. So initially it could be something that causes a bit of conflict, or both of you are not able to see each other's point of view, or both of you don't want to compromise. So that is a potential challenge that might come, and something for you to both work on together. But definitely, because we're ending with the new moon in Leo, which says confidence is your key to success. So that's what I'm seeing, that initially this amount of competition that might exist, or this differing goals, different ideas, visions that you have, or maybe the same goal or vision, but then different ways of approaching it, or any of these things that you might differ on, and which presents as a big difference or a big challenge in the beginning. So, as and when you get to know each other, you communicate more with each other, that challenge is eventually turning into a strength or a resource that you can use to work with each other. And because we have the lion imagery present in both of these cards, it also makes me think about the strength card from the tarot deck, which is all about being strong in terms of standing for yourself and the values that you uphold, but at the same time doing that with a gentle or a calmer approach, where you're not hurting someone else, or you're not putting someone else down just to progress your own needs forward. So that's just a word of caution or something to think about a bit more when it comes to your connection. The next card that we have for you is a new romantic cycle begins. So, that's what I'm seeing here, that initially there is this potential challenge or potential difference that exists between the two of you. But as and when you get to know each other, that's when we see this romantic cycle that is beginning. You also have the balancing scales on this card. So, I see that yes, there could be a little bit imbalance in the beginning, but as you're getting to know each other more, things are balancing out. And especially what I was saying earlier, that the kind of stability and balance and peace and calm that you're looking for in a connection, that is definitely something that this relationship with your future spouse is going to offer you. But it is going to take work. There is no relationship that is just perfect. Like, it takes time and effort and energy, and then constantly checking in with each other, constantly letting each other know that maybe there are things that are going wrong, or there are these needs that you have which you haven't expressed. So make sure that this aspect of communication stays open between the two of you. And this new moon in Libra is definitely a very positive sign about a long term commitment with someone, and also the possibility of engagement, marriage, if that is something that you're looking for. But this is only going to happen when you, what I was saying here with the hermit, that yes, we need to guard and protect ourselves and protect our heart, and not be too vulnerable, and not let someone step down on us or to hurt us in any way. But at the same time, when we have identified that there is this person that we align with, and we want something deeper to develop, so that does require for us to lower our guards down just a little bit, so that you can have that deeper connection with that person. So make sure that you are placing importance on how you're feeling inside, and balancing your mind and heart together. So how can you be practical about this, but then also not make sure that you're not shutting down your emotions. And definitely there is going to be, Libra as a whole is a sign of love and harmony, and this form of again generosity, this event mutual understanding of each other, and this balance that you're seeking for, and overall just a very strong partnership, because I see both of you as being these team members with each other in a connection, that that there is something deeper to this connection, and you want the best outcomes for this connection. So you're striving to work towards it together, and you're constantly building this whole dynamic, this system between the two of you, to have the sort of connection that you're envisioning. And just that sense of partnership that you have is going to be so strong for the both of you. And finally, as I mentioned, confidence is your key to success. So I see that your ambition, your individual goals that you have, and these ideas that you have is going to be something that is such a strength for you when you both come together and use this to move forward. So as I mentioned, if in the beginning there are these conflicts, or maybe challenges that arise between the two of you, or you're being too ambitious in your personal fronts, that you're not able to see the other person's or their point of view, and when you get into this phase of communicating with each other, learning about each other, that's when you realize that okay, these differing viewpoints that you have, they're not actually causes of conflict. Rather, these are things that you can use to get a balanced approach towards working on your goals together. So for example, maybe it's a project, a startup, or something that you create together. And maybe one of you is a lot more emotional and passionate in the sense that you know, even if some decisions don't feel very practical or logical, but because you have so much faith in it, you would want to carry that out. And maybe the balance that your future spouse brings in for you is they also know that this passion, this vision is important, but it has to be balanced with practicality. So that spouse, your person, is going to help you with having a balanced approach towards things. And at the same time, you know, that could be something that you offer to that spouse. So maybe at points that your spouse is getting stuck, that's when you could bring in a balanced perspective. And that's why in a relationship or in a connection, it's not guaranteed that both people will always be aligned with each other 100% on every matter. So there will definitely be differences that arise, but how can you make sure that you are using these differences as resources to learn from each other and have a balanced perspective and a balanced path forward, rather than letting these differences break you down? So I'm seeing a very overall a very fulfilling connection, a lot of growth that's taking place for the both of you, and just together overall you're going to grow and blossom, and you're going to create so much prosperity for yourself. So thank you so much for joining me for this reading pile number 1. I'm sending you all the best wishes. And remember, if you want to book a personal reading with me, all details are in the description. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in my next reading. Bye bye. Hello, and welcome to your reading pile number 2. We're going to look at all the messages that we have about your future spouse. And remember, this is a reading for the collective. For a personal reading, you can find all details in the description. So, Spirit, how is pile 2 going to meet their future spouse? How are pile 2, how are they going to meet their future spouse? When is this encounter or this meeting going to take place? What is the first impression that pile 1 will have about their future spouse? Or how will they know that this person is the one for them? And what about pile two's spouse and their first impression about pile number 2? And what are the overall blessings in this connection? And we have the back of the deck energy. All right, pile number 2. So, in terms of how you're going to meet your person, your future spouse, we have the Nine of Cups. And actually, in this pile, we have very strong water energies that are present with the cups card and also with the high priestess. So water signs could be significant for you. So maybe you could have the water signs, that is Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, as your sun, moon, or rising sign. But it doesn't have to resonate. It could just be about the strong energies in this connection or the time frame when you're meeting each other. But starting off with how exactly you're meeting the person, we have the Nine of Cups. So if you have some form of a creative hobby that maybe right now you only do it for yourself and you're not really displaying or showing your work to anyone, so there might be a possibility that eventually you decide to show that work to others, show others what you're capable of. Maybe some of you could be releasing a film of some sort or making your art known to the world through some form of an exhibition, or just in your own personal level, whatever message resonates, whatever form of pursuit that you have that eventually you are getting known for, or you're sharing your work with others. So that is one possibility of how you're meeting your future spouse. And it could even be the other way around. So for example, it's your spouse actually who is in that setting of being someone who's displaying their creative works, and you could have similar hobbies. For example, you enjoy paintings or going to exhibitions, or maybe even you enjoy supporting small artists, local artists, and you decide to go to some sort of a place that displays that kind of work, and you find someone whose work that you really like, and that's sort of a setting that you're meeting in. So that's one of the possibilities. And another thing that I see with the Nine of Cups is also about some form of a celebration or some accomplishment that has taken place, for which you are congratulating yourself, you're awarding yourself for that. So, for example, it could be a graduation ceremony of some sort, and there is a party that you go to, or maybe a party that's been thrown for you, or maybe some form of a promotion that has taken place either for you or for your future spouse. So, there is just some energy of having accomplished something, having reached a position where you are proud of what you have done, and even the others around you are celebrating for it. So I'm seeing that there's definitely some form of an event, a celebration, or what I said earlier, some place to do with creativity, maybe a concert, some music festival, or there's just something very social that I see in this energy, some form of an event, some form of people gathered together for a common purpose or something of that sort. So it could be a setting of that sort that you have your first encounter with this person, and it doesn't have to mean that from that initial meeting or that initial conversation itself there are things that move to a deeper level. Rather, it's just, it's just talking about what is this setting where both of you could encounter each other. So that's just a sign for you to look out for. And in terms of when you're meeting this person, we have the strength card. So in terms of the timeline that we have with the strength card, it is the Leo season. So the Leo season could be important for you. So either if maybe you or your partner has your birthday in the Leo season, which is between July to August, so that could be a significant date. Or as I mentioned, this form of celebration, exhibition, whatever this gathering is, or whatever this event might be, that could be happening in the Leo season. So that time frame could be important for you. But with the strength card that we have here, just this overall energy that I see is some form of confidence playing a role here, that there is this thing, this skill, this ability that you are very proud of. So like this message could be both ways. So either it's you who has this skill or talent or something that you're confident about, and you're showing that work, you're displaying that work, you're showing others what you're capable of, and your future spouse sees you in that setting and they are very inspired by what they're doing, so they want to have a conversation with you, or they want to get to know you. Or it could be the other way around, that your person is someone who you meet in a setting where you are inspired by what they're doing and you want to know more about it, you want to learn more about it. And for some of you, it could even be that there is some form of either of you could be talking about a topic. So for example, you could be having a profession such as something to do with mental health, psychology, and there's an event or a workshop that is taking place. So either you are the one who is sharing information or knowledge about that topic or that theme, or maybe you are in that audience and your future spouse is someone who is in the position of talking about that thing, and there is this sense of being inspired what the other person is saying and wanting to have a one-on-one conversation with that person about, maybe this could be about talking about your personal journey and the challenges or these situations that you have faced, and now you're talking about it, and that's a setting that you both meet each other in. So for example, there could be an event or some I do see a social event or some form of a setting where you're meeting each other and you're talking about something that involves strength. So, and the first example that comes to mind is something to do with mental health or this difficult journey that you've had, and now you're talking about it and you're making your story known. So, there is a journey that you've had and you're making that known, and that is something that ends up inspiring other people to reflect, or maybe there are certain challenges that they resonate with. So, that is helping you connect with how someone else has gone through that similar challenge and how that could be inspiring. And for some of you, this doesn't even have to be something that actually takes place in person. With social media, this could make this connection happen even quicker. So for example, there is someone you follow on social media because their work really inspires you, or you're really inspired by their story that they're sharing on social media, and you try to reach out to them. So I see all these different possibilities, but irrespective of how that specific encounter happens in your setting, one thing is for sure and is common across your situation is, before even there is a possibility of something romantic developing or a connection that is happening, there is definitely a very strong connection that like I almost see a bond that is developing, because you might have had similar journeys in the past, similar experiences, and you might have felt that I was alone in that journey, or I'm the only one who's had these sort of experiences or this sort of a coping style. But when you get to meet this person, when you get to see that person's way of sharing or expressing themselves, you start to feel that, oh, I'm not alone, and there is someone else who understands me because they've gone through similar challenges. And that's how you are connecting with each other, you're getting to know each other. And I see this very mutual sense of both of you being very inspired by each other and wanting to get to know each other. And that's what I'm seeing here, that your first impression about your future spouse with this Empress energy, I see that you are going to be very inspired by your future spouse and their ability to shape their own life. So there could be an idea or a vision that your future spouse has, and or maybe a project, or there's something that they have started, and I'm getting a very strong sense of this pile having energies to do with healing, working with energies, working with maybe spirituality of some sort, meditation, and all of these practices that are focused towards self improvement, inner work, and developing your own self and healing from the challenges that you have faced. And that is also something that is bringing you closer and bringing you towards each other because you're so focused on working on your own healing. And I'm seeing that you are inspired by your spouse, and even the first impression that we see here with the Empress card, like you're so inspired by how empowered your future spouse is and how they've taken charge of their own life. And your future spouse might be someone who has this ability to create and shape their own ideas, and maybe they are doing some kind of business, a startup, an entrepreneurial work where they are engaged with helping others or sharing their knowledge and resources with others. It could be because with the Empress there is also this energy of being a teacher in some capacity or sharing your experiences with someone. So that is a first impression that you could have of that person, that either if you are meeting your future spouse in person for the first time, or you get to hear about them, get to hear about their story. That could be in a setting because they're sharing their experiences. So that could be one possibility that I see here. And with the Empress there is also a possibility that when you meet this person, so how can you know that this is your future spouse, or this person that you're meeting for the first time is going to be someone that you eventually end up having a deeper connection with? And that could be because you see a possibility of growing something with them, of nurturing something with this person, and you see that there are a lot of values and beliefs that you both align on, and you can create something together. And I'm seeing a lot of emotional conversations that are taking place between the two of you. I see this vulnerability that you're stepping into, where you are open about your experiences, open about your difficulties in your journey, and you're open to sharing those with each other and just being honest about what are the challenges that you faced and what are these difficult moments that you might have had. And now you're getting to share that with someone else who's had a similar journey and who can offer so much to you, and both of you in fact can offer so much to each other. So I'm seeing that after that initial encounter, for some of you, this for either the first meeting itself or the first few instances that you're meeting your future spouse, it might lead to long conversations, and you might not even realize that it's just the first few times that you're meeting this person, but you're still able to talk to them for hours on end, and you might not even realize that so much time has passed with this person because it feels so freeing. And you feel that you've been waiting for this person your entire life, and now that you are with them, you get to talk to them about all of these things, and you just instantly have this strong bond, this strong connection, and there is so much that you both have to talk to each other about. So first of all, I also want to talk about numbers in this card, because we have three cards with the number 8 on it: the Strength, which is number 8, the 8 of Cups, as well as the 8 of Swords, which was your back of the deck energy. And the number 8 as a whole is about transformation, transmutation. So I'm seeing that one thing that unites the both of you is the way that you have transmuted the difficult energies in your life. So maybe both of you have had difficult experiences in your past. It could be something to do with your childhood, your mental health in some capacity, or it could even be about the kind of relationships that you both had in the past and the kind of heartbreak and disappointment that it has caused for you. But I do get a very strong sense that both of you are going to be at a stage of immense transformation in your own personal lives when you encounter this person, and there are a lot of changes that this relationship is going to bring for you, because you see this new way of dealing with things. You see this new way of using your difficult experiences and channeling that into a different manner, and channeling that in a way where you're causing healing not just for yourself, but also by sharing your experiences, you're inspiring other people. So your spouse and their first impression of you, or when they meet you, you are going to be in this state of transformation where you're leaving something behind, or as I mentioned, if there is a difficult experience that you've had and you are in a little bit of a vulnerable state because you've just moved away from this thing, you've made this decision to leave something behind. And as I mentioned, like maybe the first few conversations that you are having with your future spouse, you end up talking for hours on end, and maybe one thing that you are talking about in that conversation is maybe a recent heartbreak that you've had, a recent rejection that you had to face, or just in general, maybe there could have been a situation that you had to walk away from because that situation wasn't helping you anymore and it was causing more hurt and pain for you. And that decision to walk away took a lot of courage from you, and that is what you are sharing with your future spouse in your first few conversations. And maybe even your future spouse has gone through a similar experience, so they can understand where you're coming from. They can definitely understand why you had to make that decision to walk away, and maybe they might have also had to deal with something similar in the past. So in terms of your both of your first impressions about each other, I'm definitely seeing that there is a deep emotional connection that is developing between the two of you, and those are the things that both of you are going to talk to each other about. And I also feel that in this connection, it is such that neither of you feels any inhibition about sharing how you're feeling or sharing your vulnerabilities, and that really creates that sort of openness in the connection. I Before I go to the final card, talking about the back of the deck energy which we have with the Eight of Swords here, and surprisingly below that we have the Two of Wands. So this could be about maybe the only thing separating the two of you could with the sword sign and this air energy here, maybe there could be some distance between the two of you. It could be that you develop this strong bond with each other, but one thing that is preventing from this connection to immediately evolve into a long-term connection or to even think about a relationship is because either you are at a far away distance from each other, or maybe there are these other responsibilities that are keeping you apart from each other, or maybe despite these conversations in the beginning and despite this strong connection that develops in the beginning, it doesn't initially move into a relationship because there are these things that are holding you back. So it could be distance, or it could be that the way that both of you have had your past experiences, now you've decided that you don't want to step into a relationship, or you don't want to label it as such, and you don't want these strong deep feelings to be affected by this label that you might put to the connection, or like whatever these constraints are in your specific situation. I'm seeing that there is something that at least for a little while it holds back the connection from developing into something deeper. And maybe it might happen for some of you, pile number two, that you meet someone and initially there is such a deep bond and it feels as if you've known each other for your entire lives and you get to talk to each other for hours on end. But maybe after that initial conversation, there is a bit of a phase where you're not speaking to each other, where there is some time and distance apart, and maybe with the Two of Wands, either of you could actually be traveling, or um, you could be at a distance away from each other, and it is that distance, it is that sort of priorities that are there in either of your lives and the responsibilities that you have. So maybe there is something that prevents both of you from being together instantly. But as we see with the Ten of Cups, there will eventually be a time where once these limitations or these restrictions are not in place, when you can finally be together and have a deeper level of commitment. And for some of you, it might even turn into something like a family, a marriage, if that is something that you're looking for. And finally, with the blessings that this relationship is going to bring into your life, we have the High Priestess card. And interestingly, I was saying that with the number 8, I see a lot of transformation that is taking place with the both of you. And the High Priestess, in some ways, it's making me think about a spiritual awakening that both of you are going through. Even though, during the spiritual awakening, you can have all the support around you, but still, it is a very personal experience. It is a very personal journey to go through. And there are things that you have to do by yourself. You have to just, it might be a bit of a lonely journey, but you have to do it by your own self. You can have the support around, but whenever it comes to a spiritual awakening, there is these things like inner work, shadow work, and processing your past hurt and pain, and maybe if there has been any traumatic experiences or difficult emotional experiences, so having to deal with that, it takes a lot of inner work and a lot of processing, and in some cases also professional help if that's something that you find helpful and supportive. So I see that, like, the timeline that I see in this connection is you are instantly drawn to each other because of your common creative pursuits, or your stories that you feel that resonate with the both of you, and you have this initial conversation or a connection where things get very deep and you develop this emotional bond with each other. But then eventually there comes a time where there is some time and distance apart from each other, so it could be something which is unavoidable. For example, there is actual physical distance between the two of you, or you or your future spouse could be moving away for something like studies, work, or something of that sort. Or it could be that this distance is created by choice because you feel that for a while you have to go through your individual journeys and this little phase of a separation. So maybe pile number two, some of you might resonate with the twin flame example, or that twin flame journey that involves some amount of separation and your own personal spiritual growth and awakening that you're going through, and you might both act as that catalyst for each other in this journey, where this connection as a whole is making both of you step into that phase of spiritual awakening and growth for yourself. Because with the high priestess, there is so much of this inner work that I see, and even when you both come together and have this fulfilling and a long-term connection with each other, that's when you know that one purpose that you have both in this life is about dealing with day-to-day life challenges, dealing with these very difficult experiences, and then combining that with the spiritual wisdom and spiritual knowledge to work through those challenges and to reach to that inner peace for yourself, and then using your own journey, your own experiences as something to share that knowledge and wisdom with others and to create better outcomes for other people. So, pile number two, I can definitely see that the future or the outcome of this connection is very positive. But if you experience this little phase of separation, and the duration of that may vary for those of you who have chosen this pile, for some of you, it might be for a little while, and for others, it could be a longer period of separation. But when you are in that phase, make sure that it is your own spiritual growth and development that you're focusing on, and just know when that work has taken place for both of you, and when you're ready, that's when this relationship will definitely evolve into something a lot more beautiful and a lot more prosperous. And we'll also look at some more clarifications from these moonology cards. So we'll look at what other guidance might both you need to meet your future spouse and be in this connection. So spirit, can we have some more clarification for pile number two? We have the full moon in Aquarius. Clarification for pile number two, please. We have the disseminating moon, and we have the waxing crescent moon. So, starting off with the first card that we have for you, full moon in Aquarius. So, this says, show the world the real you. So, this tells me, and this actually connects with what I was saying earlier about some form of a setting or a situation where you are making your story heard to other people in whatever shape or form that might be in, maybe an actual display of your creative work, or sharing your story with others, making your experiences known, making your journey known to other people. So don't hide your vulnerabilities, like even these difficult experiences that you've gone through, even the challenges that you have faced. Don't think that sharing these things with the world might make people see you as someone weaker. Rather, this ability of yours to be honest about your challenges is going to make so many people resonate with you, because we all have our own journeys, we have our own difficult experiences that we have gone through, and these situations that we have encountered, and the intensity or the actual shape, way, or form in which that happens might be different, but we all have our own stories. So sharing your own challenges is not going to make you look weaker, rather it's going to display your own strength. It's going to show how you use those difficult experiences and you came out of it. And for some of you, I'm also getting a sense that maybe there is some form of an injustice that is happening in this situation. So what I was saying earlier about, so what I was saying with this eight of swords, that what is this thing that is holding you back or is making you feel trapped, or what could be a potential reason why this relationship doesn't evolve into a deeper commitment in the beginning. That some of you, I'm seeing a possibility of there being some form of injustice, there is someone who has been wronged in this situation, there could be something someone else has done wrong because of which you or your future spouse is trapped in a certain situation, and there is a story that needs to be told here. So for example, a difficult experience that you've gone through or an injustice that has taken place, and now there is a need to reveal that story to the world, to show the world the real you, that there are these difficult experiences that you've gone through, or maybe if there is something unjust that has happened externally. So let the world see the strength in you. And just by sharing these things with the world, you're not going to become weaker. Rather, your strength is going to be displayed. People are going to see how you went through that difficult experience and emerged out of it. So, in whatever way that might resonate with you, make sure that you're making your story heard. You're not like these experiences that you've gone through, let them be something that, and obviously this is only when you are ready to share that with the world, but just thinking about how sharing your own challenges and your journey might end up helping someone else who is going through something similar, and it might help someone else to see that they're not lonely and there are these other people out there who understand you. So in whatever way this resonates with you, make sure that you're showing the world the real you, you're being honest about the challenges that you have had to face in your life, and that could just end up inspiring someone else. And then we have the next card, which is the disseminating moon, which says take time to breathe out. So this can just be about giving yourself some time to process how the situation has been so far. And again, disseminating moon also gives this message of sharing your story with the world, because disseminating information is when you are sharing your own knowledge with someone else who might benefit from it. So I'm getting this sense that pile number 2, you and your future spouse both are in an energy where there are difficult experiences or difficult journeys, and it can be your own unique way of dealing with things, of going through certain situations, and how you've emerged out of it. And there is a story that has to be shared with the world, and that is why both of you are coming together. So when we talk about relationships in a much more spiritual sense, there is a union that takes place, or a purpose that both of you as a couple come together to achieve, and a purpose that come together to fulfill. And that's what I'm seeing here, that in this connection, both of you and your experiences are something that is going to add hope and inspiration for so many others in your life, in your community, or even the world at large. Make sure that when you go through this spiritual awakening in your own journey, the spiritual growth, which might have its own challenges, and maybe this period of separation that you're going through, or even if it isn't separation, but this distance that is there between the two of you because you have to go through your own journey and your own challenges. Make sure that once you've gone through that, once you've learned from that experience, you are using this connection with your future spouse as something to step towards this inner calling that you feel. And with the final card, it says have faith in your dreams. So there is no dream that is too big or too ambitious, and it might feel like a goal is too huge to achieve, but you have all the resources, you have all the capabilities to achieve that goal. And even when it comes to meeting your future spouse, and this connection that you both have together, and the way that you are going to help each other in each other's journey and in your own journeys moving forward, it's going to be so significant. And I'm seeing this as a connection where there is so much growth and healing takes place on a personal level, and at the same time both of you are the exact kind of person or the partner that the other person needs. So for example, you might have pile number 2 certain ideas about this is what I want my future spouse to look like, or these are the needs that I have and this is what I want my future partner to fulfill, or these are the kinds of values and beliefs that I share, or this is my view on life and I want someone who thinks and feels like me, who views the world like me. So if these are the thoughts that you've had for a while, and maybe because of the kind of people you've encountered, you might have felt that are my standards too unrealistic to be met, or is there even a person like that who exists? So the answer for you is yes, definitely there is someone who is going to align perfectly well with these ideas that you and have faith in, even if right now it feels that that person might not even exist, or I don't think there is someone like that for me out there, and that is making you feel a little hopeless, or it's making you question whether this connection is even going to happen. So the universe, the spirit wants to give you a message that have faith in your dreams, have faith in this idea of the person that you want to encounter, and you will eventually eventually end up meeting that person. And obviously, not to say that any person is going to be 100% perfect, but there are people who are more aligned to us than others. And that's what I'm seeing with your future spouse, that you have so much in common. You have this common, maybe some form of common experience that you've gone through, and a story to share with the world. And both of you coming together, you are making each other feel empowered in your own life, and you're coming together to go through this spiritual journey and this healing for yourself, and using those resources to come together as a couple and to share that with the world. And even when you have that marriage, or that lifetime that you're spending with each other, that's going to be so full of bliss and happiness. And like, I want to end your reading with the card that we have below, which is the star card. And this is all about a new hope that comes after a difficult phase. So right now, if there are any difficult experiences that you're going through, you might question that, why do I have to experience this, and I don't deserve to go through this. And those feelings are extremely valid and they are true, and I can understand how that might feel. But when you go through this experience, eventually you'll realize that you have come out on the other end of this situation, and there is this new hope that you see. And now you can use your difficult experiences in a positive manner or in a helpful manner to help others. And even the card that we have below, the magician, so you're using the experiences from this relationship as resources, as something that helps you in your journey moving forward. So I'm seeing such a prosperous connection between you and your future spouse. And yes, things might take a little time to evolve. There might be some challenges that you face, some separation that you have to go through, but the overall outcome is going to be so positive. So I'm sending you a lot of love, light, and power. Pile number 2, thank you so much for joining me for a reading. And if you want to book a personal reading with me, all details are in the description. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in my next reading. Hello, and welcome to your reading pile number 3. We're going to look at all the messages that we have about your future spouse. And remember, this is a reading for the collective. For a personal reading, you can find all the details in the description. So, Spirit, how is pile 3 going to meet their future spouse? We have the Page of Wands. When will pile 3 meet their future spouse? We have the Three of Wands. What is the first impression that pile 3 will have about their future spouse? We have the Hanged Man. What will their first impression be of pile 3? We have the Queen of Pentacles. And what are the blessings that this connection is going to bring into pile 3's life? What are the blessings that this connection is going to bring? We have the Five of Wands, and finally the back of the deck energy, that is Five of Swords. So what I can see in your reading pile number 3 is, first of all, let's talk about the signs that are present here. We have 3 out of your 5 cards are the wands. So fire energy is significant in this reading. So either you or your future spouse could have fire signs as your sun, moon, or rising, which is Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. Or this could be a significant time frame in terms of when exactly you're getting to meet your future spouse. So let's start with how exactly you're meeting your future spouse. So we have the Page of Wands here, and with this card I see that you are going to meet your future spouse in a situation or at a stage in your life where there is a recent change that you go through. Maybe you have made a decision to move to some other place, or to move to a new location, either to study or for work, or there is just a scenario where there is this change that you have created in your life. You have moved away from something, there is something that you have left behind, and you are starting to create your own reality. You're beginning to shape your own life by your own rules, and you are taking a lot more charge of your life. And if you find that right now that energy doesn't resonate with you at all, or for example you feel that right now your life is too controlled by other factors such as family, society, expectations, or if you are in a job where it is very much dependent on someone else's ideas, decisions, and you feel that you're not experiencing that form of freedom or independence right now. So if that is your energy right now, then like, when can you know that you are closer to meeting your future spouse? That's going to be when you start experiencing your own freedom and liberation, and you start to feel that you are becoming more in control of your life, and you can make changes in your life with less fear, and you can take more risks and decide to lead your life in the way that you want. So when you see that those kind of changes happening for you, that's when you know that you are closer to meeting your future spouse. And if you feel that you are already in that phase where you are independent and you are able to take your own decisions, and you, even if it's things like moving to some other place to work, moving somewhere else to study, and if you feel that you do have that choice and that ability to make those decisions, then the confirmation for you is when you make that change and when you finally step into your power and take a risk, or there is this big adventure that you decide to follow, this path that you decide to take, that's when life is going to open up that opportunity for your future spouse to enter your life and to enter your energies. So like that's just a sign for you to know, and for a confirmation for yourself, that when you start seeing your own life open up a little bit, and if for example you are more in a setting right now where you don't get to go out too much, you don't get to meet too many people, or there are these other expectations or responsibilities and other things which aren't allowing you to truly step outside of your comfort zone, then you know that right now is not the right time, or it isn't the right space or a right situation where a connection like that can evolve. So that's how you know that when things start opening up a little bit for yourself personally, that's when you're becoming closer to attract that future spouse in your life. And talking about when exactly that first encounter is going to happen, we have the three of wands. So I'm seeing here, even with the three of wands, there is this situation of, there is a decision that you have made. Maybe you've decided to leave your hometown behind, leave your home behind, leave your family behind, and not like permanently or walking away from it, but rather you are seeking an opportunity elsewhere, and you have decided to step out of your comfort zone and into this new setting or a new situation. So when you make that change in your life, so depending on how close or far that change is for you, that is going to tell you how close or far you are from meeting this person. Because I see that your encounter, your first meeting with this future spouse, is going to follow immediately after this big huge shift and change that has taken place in your life. And when you are more in a power of being able to take the decisions and being able to take risks and move forward in your life, so that is about when you're going to meet them. And I'm also seeing for some of you, because we have this water element here, it could be that you are traveling somewhere else, you're physically moving locations, because wands is all about changes, about following our passions, taking risks, and just taking on an adventure. And that is what I'm seeing is going to also make this journey towards your future spouse a lot more quicker for you. So if you have been contemplating on making a change, then this is just a confirmation for you that that change is going to benefit you, not just on a personal or a professional front, but it's also going to attract this future person into your life. So if that's a contemplation that you've been sitting with, then this is just a big yes for you to take that risk, to make that decision, and to go follow that path that you intuitively feel is going to benefit you, and you feel very passionate about making that change. And now talking about what your first impression of your future spouse is going to be, we have the hanged man here. So this is quite an interesting energy, because I feel that when you meet your future spouse, this hangman is always about a different perspective, a shift in perspective, or a new way of seeing things. So I'm seeing this energy that when you meet your future spouse, or at least because this is about the first impression, so right when you meet them, this might be a person that you usually wouldn't imagine as your partner, or you wouldn't imagine dating this sort of a person. So it's coming quite as a surprise for you that you are being attracted to a person like this. And this could be someone who either comes from a different background, either culturally, geographically, or maybe, if you are actually meeting this person through this travel situation, maybe there's a vacation that you go on, or there is some form of, stepping outside of your comfort zone, outside of your usual setting, and you are in an unexpected situation, and you encounter this person who's very different from you, who has very different upbringing, different sort of an experience that they've gone through, or just they might have different ideas and views and beliefs on life. And it's not like a huge difference or something too much in opposition of the way you are, rather just a new perspective or a new way of doing things. And that is exactly the kind of first impression that you're going to have about this person, that this person is someone so free and so, they're unafraid, and they they're going to be someone who's not afraid to hold their own beliefs and values even if other people don't agree with them. And this person could also be someone who has a little bit of an unconventional lifestyle, unconventional profession, or maybe they're into something related to do with sports or performance, or and it might not resonate for all of you, but there is just some sense of unconventionality in your future spouse and the way that they lead their life. So maybe for you, as I was saying, if you are currently in this energy, or you have been in this energy where everything to do with your what path to follow, what career choices to make, which place to go to, if all of these has been dictated by your family, by the society, or by external factors, and you've really played by the rules, and that's the kind of experience that you've had or you are currently going through, so that is something that your person is going to differ a lot from you. So maybe they haven't had those kinds of restrictions in their lives, and they have been free to make their choices, or maybe they also had the same kind of restrictions, but they made that decision earlier on to not let someone else control their lives. And that's something that you're so surprised by, that how can someone be so confident and so bold in their decision, so bold in the kind of life they live, and they are doing everything that they're passionate about. And that is the first impression that you're having about your spouse. And in terms of your spouses, their first impression of you, I'm seeing that they are going to see how, first of all, with this Queen of Pentacles energy, your future spouse might see you as someone who is so grounded, who is so rooted. And with this, the Queen of Pentacles also has a lot of traditional values, and someone who values their family a lot, who values the place that they're coming from, their background, and they're very rooted. And we see the contrast in energies here so clearly, that there is this hanged man who's hanging from the air, and it almost seems like the hanged man doesn't really have proper roots or proper grounding. And this might be somewhat of a, like, person who just instantly makes a decision to move to some place, and they make a decision, they go to that place, they travel a lot, they have fun, they have these different experiences. And that is something that you personally are so in awe of your future spouse when you first meet them, that this person is so free and so independent, and they get to make all these decisions for themselves. And that's something that you admire about that person. And similarly, what your future spouse is going to admire about you is how rooted and grounded you are. And this might only resonate for some of you, but I'm seeing that you could be someone who is more in touch and more connected with your family, with your roots, with your upbringing, whereas your future spouse, or they are someone who, even if they have that sort of a connection with their family, but they are more independent in the sense that they won't let their family or their roots as something that holds them back from exploring the world. So that's where this freedom comes from, because even if you know that there are these people or these situations that ground you, and you have a home or a space to come back to, but at the same time they won't let these things be as something that holds them back from seeing the world or from exploring the things that they want to. And that really sets them apart from other people. And what your future spouse is admiring about you is how rooted and grounded you are, how in touch with your family you are, and how much you care about other people, and you care about how your decisions are going to affect other people. And this is an aspect that you both differ on a little bit, but at the same time this is something that teaches you so much about a different perspective. So you are going to teach your future spouse about how to have a balance, and how to know when there is a space to come back to, and how you can't always be just by yourself all the time. And at the same time, what your future spouse is teaching you is to shift your perspective a little bit, and also to know, if you begin to feel trapped by a certain expectation from outside, then you have the freedom to make your own decisions, to explore. So there is this sort of balance that I see. And even if you have opposing views or beliefs, then you're able to teach this to each other, and you're able to experience the other side of things, so to say. But in terms of the blessings, or even a challenge that you're overcoming in this connection, is this Five of Wands. So as I mentioned, that this difference that you have I'm not seeing that as a very big conflict, rather something that you both work towards to achieve something. Like we see these different people who are competing against each other, or might have different agendas, and they have a common purpose or a flame that they're trying to touch or reach. And that's what I'm seeing in your connection, that maybe initially when you get to know each other, there is this instant attraction because of your differences and because of how both of you teach each other how to see life and things around in a different perspective, and that draws you to each other. But when this sort of a relationship or a connection, when it moves into a deeper commitment, then we have to be very careful about working on these differences, because you know how they often say that the things that you initially like about each other, those can with time, if you're not communicating with each other, if you're not caring for each other that much, that might become the things that you resent each other for. So to prevent that from happening, you have to make sure that as you grow with this person, it shouldn't happen that you start resenting your future spouse because of how adventurous they are. And it can be the other way around also. You know, you might be the one who's actually in this adventurous spirit, and your partner is in that grounded family based energy. So take that as it resonates. These energies could obviously be reversed. So make sure that these differences are something that you initially communicate about, and you have a clearer idea about what expectations you have from each other and how do you eventually want to lead your life. Because if you decide to step into a long term commitment, whether that is a long time a relationship, if you put a label to it, or an engagement, or even marriage, if that's something that you're asking about, so for anything to evolve into that level of commitment, you need to have at least some common goal or a common expectation and something that you're working towards. So there a compromise or a balance has to be created, that how can you balance these different views and values that you have. And that is why we have the five of swords as the back of the deck energy. That, you know, one potential challenge that you might also face is not being able to communicate with each other that well, or maybe initially when you are communicating, you know, there is someone who's feeling a little left out, left behind, or they're a bit worried while someone else is going on to follow their journey, follow their path. So it might happen that if the situation isn't dealt with well, then it might create some form of resentment in the beginning, where you are not able to navigate these differences with each other, or you might end up saying certain things to each other which hurts the other person. But you know, I'm overall seeing that these are just certain stepping stones towards a stronger connection. That even if there are these challenges that exist in the beginning, it's not going to be something that breaks your connection or it causes so much trouble for you. Rather, it's just these challenges that you face which help you to get to know each other better, and they help you to reach that common point, that common space, and get on this place where you can communicate with each other well without hurting that other person too much. And even with the card that we have below, that eight of wands, that once you do go through these challenges, once you learn how to navigate these changes and your differences, that's when you'll know that, you know, how can you align your wands so that they're all pointing in the same direction. So it might happen that you meet each other, the initial encounter or dating for a while, that is very adventurous, and there is this novelty that I'm connecting with a lot. That, you know, the novelty or that newness that is present at the beginning of a connection, which is so exciting and that draws you both closer to each other. But as time goes on, there might be certain challenges that come. So maybe you've been dating for a while and you're both contemplating about what the future of this connection is going to look like, or if you would even have a long term future with each other. And that's when these differences might come more to the surface, and you're not able to decide how to navigate these changes. And that's when you'll have to focus on this eight of wands energy in terms of aligning your energies in the same direction, so that both of you know that you're working towards a common goal. And because this is a future spouse reading, I can see that, you know, there is a long-term commitment that you're definitely stepping towards with this person. But it might happen that it takes a lot of communication, or maybe some sort of compromise, or getting to understand each other. And then you have this phase, this situation where you finally step in and you make the decision to step into that long term commitment. So, just because we have all these bonds energy in this card, the main emphasis here is going to be about changes. First of all, dealing with changes and navigating through these challenges that take place. And also, there is bonds is all about taking action. So, this relationship, this connection is going to be something which requires active effort on both you and your spouse's part to make this connection work. And when that effort has been put in, when you have fully stepped into this wants, this fiery, passionate energy, that's when it's going to blossom into such a fulfilling connection. And you're going to experience that how these different kind of people, both of you, the way that you are, the experiences that you had, and these differences that you bring to this relationship, how you can work through those things. And these needn't be something that breaks you apart, rather it brings you closer and it makes you constantly work towards this novelty that you experience in the beginning, for that to stay alive, the sense of adventure and passion to stay alive. And now we'll also look at some further messages for clarification and any guidance that we might have for you from Spirit. So, Spirit, please let us know what further messages, what clarifications do we have for pile 3? We have new moon in Capricorn. What further clarification messages do we have for pile 3? We have full moon in Leo. One final card, please, Spirit, clarifications. We have super moon. So the first card that we have for you, your hard work is paying off, new moon in Capricorn. So this tells me that, as I was saying just right now with the wands energy, that there is a lot of active efforts and action that has to be put in into this connection. And that's what I'm seeing, that once you go through these challenges, these differences, and you work on whatever challenge life throws at you and this relationship brings up to you, and you're working on them, you are putting in all your efforts, and definitely your hard work is going to pay off, and this connection will have a bright and a prosperous future for you. And you're going to experience this connection where it's going to highlight for the both of you how relationships in general work, and there is no relationship that is 100% perfect, and there is always some amount of constant work that is needed, being in touch with each other, communicating with each other, making sure that you are aligned in terms of the vision that you have about where the connection is going. And it might happen that as time progresses, when we are in the initial dating stage, the priorities of a connection are different. There is that novelty, there is that adventure, and the passions are high, and you're just getting to know each other and have these experiences. But as things step into a bit of a long term commitment, and there are all these other aspects that are connected with the connection, the priorities change and things evolve in a different manner. And because this reading is about a future spouse, so when you are finally in that energy of becoming a spouse, becoming married to each other, or whatever form of this long term commitment that you want to have with each other, it can only happen when you talk about and you navigate these differing expectations, because the expectations that you have at the starting of the connection are definitely not going to be exactly the same as what you have when you step into the role of being each other's spouse, because there you have to think about not just the relationship but maybe other responsibilities, and if there is family associated with it, maybe your finances that you have to look after, or maybe both of you have your own career, and then navigating where to live, where to relocate, and all these things require a lot of constant work, constant communication with each other. And once you do make yourself go through that, you're going to have a very fulfilling and a blossoming connection. And even it's so surprising the amount of, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 wands card that came out for you, and even now the card that we have is the 10 of wands here, which is all about moving away from a situation. So maybe if this happens, that the connection comes to a place where it cannot sustain or it cannot go on unless a major change is made. So for example, you both think that the way things are at the moment, it can't work out, and you have to relocate or you have to have a fresh start, and that's the only way this relationship can work out. So make sure that you are in that position where you can make that decision, and where you can step into this place where if there is a major decision to be made, or if there is a compromise that has to take place in this situation, you are going to make that, and you are going to have that constant communication with each other, so it doesn't end up being something where you resent the other person, that it's because of you that I had to make this big change. Rather, both of you come to this mutual understanding of going through this change together. And that's also a guidance that we have with the next card for you, which is the full moon in Leo, that says don't let pride get in your way. So this also tells me that one challenge that could exist in this connection is both of you are so rooted and you're very attached to your own values and ways of doing and seeing things, and that might not be too much of a cause for conflict at the beginning of the connection. But as things evolve, and especially if it goes to the point of being a long-term connection, that's when these could become potential conflicts, that earlier you might just be okay with your partner having different views, and that's not affecting you too much. But eventually, like, if there are things that aren't communicated, then those might end up building resentments. And don't let pride get in your way. So you might start thinking that I am the only one who's correct and my partner is wrong, or they are doing all these things that are wrong. But then you need to pause and question yourself, that if I'm saying that my partner is wrong, then have I communicated this to them, or have I even told them that these are certain needs or expectations that I have? So how can you expect the other person to fulfill them when you haven't expressed these things to them, whether that's actually saying this out to them or just letting the other person know that that's the need that you have? So make sure that you're not letting this pride get in the way, you're not becoming selfish, or you're not getting into this energy where the things that you initially liked about your partner are turning into resentments. Or maybe, as I was saying, that in the beginning the relationship might have a different set of expectations, and as the relationship evolves it turns into something a bit more different, or things change with time. So make sure that you are constantly checking in with each other, and if expectations have changed. So for example, you meet this person and initially both of you maybe have this conversation that you don't want to get married, or that's not something that you want for yourself, and this is just an example, so take it as it resonates. And then later you might feel that after months of dating or a while of dating, you realize that you want deeper commitment, and you can't expect your partner to suddenly change their views or the decision that they're taking about this relationship. So if your own personal expectation has changed and you want something different out of this connection, then you need to communicate this with them. You need to let your partner know that you need to have a conversation about how these expectations have changed. And whoever this Queen of Pentacles person is in this reading is someone who is more connected to family and wants a family eventually. So it could be you or your spouse, take how this resonates. And the other person is this in this Hanged Man energy, who is a little bit more free and doesn't want too many labels, or a relationship or this connection that you have with someone, it doesn't always need a label of a marriage. So it might not just be this specific example, but maybe there are these other things or these values that you have about relationships specifically that are different from each other, and it might work initially, but if it is to turn into a deeper level of commitment, then you need to have this conversation with each other, and you need to make sure that you're both on the same page. And the final moon card that we have for you is the super moon, which says emotions are running high. So this tells me that it could be that as these conflicts come up to the surface, or as time passes in this connection, there the emotions running high in the sense that you start feeling a bit more vulnerable. Or I see that definitely there is this passion in this connection. So even if there are certain challenges or certain changes that are required in this connection, that doesn't negate the fact that you both do feel very strongly about each other and you want this connection to work. But there are just these certain things that you might not be fully aligned on, and you need to make certain decisions to make sure that you continue to stay on the same page. And if those expectations have changed, then that might be a bit of an emotional conflict for the two of you. So how can you make sure that you are reaching the resolution without letting your emotions overpower you? So it might happen that you might feel very uncomfortable with dealing with this change in your own expectations. For example, you move from a space of being okay with the way that the connection is, and then eventually your own expectations change and you want a long term commitment, and you're not able to confront your partner. But maybe when you do, it leads into a very emotional conversation. And you need to understand that in any communication, if both people involved are very emotionally, like the emotions are very heightened, both of the people are very sensitive, then we might become too defensive, or we might say certain things that we don't mean, or we might even say things that the other person takes a lot more personally than what our intention was. And there's just a lot of scope of miscommunication to take place when emotions are heightened in any situation for that matter. So if you feel that there are these bigger conversations that need to be had, and maybe this might only resonate for a couple of you, but if you already know this person and you're asking whether this person would be your future spouse or not, and you feel that maybe this person isn't the right one, or some like the expectation of marriage or becoming a spouse doesn't already exist, and if that's a question that you have and you feel scared to confront that person, then you need to make sure that that conversation, that confrontation, it only happens when both of you are in a calmer state. And even for others, if you haven't met this person yet, just make sure that in your overall style of communicating with this person, you are making sure to only talk about these big changes and these important things in the connection when you are calmer. And if if you feel that this connection, this relationship as a whole, that requires a lot of personal sacrifice, or for you to make changes in your personal life, whether that's relocating someplace else or just in general these different views and beliefs that you might have that eventually turn into differences or conflicts. So make sure those conversations take place when neither of you is too emotionally charged. But even on the flip side, or in terms of the positive, the light aspect of this super moon is that there is so much of a possibility of a beautiful, emotionally fulfilling connection developing, and all the positive outcomes that you want in a connection where you feel that sense of fulfillment, where you want that connection to be successful, then this is a yes answer. That once you have been able to navigate through all of these challenges, and once you have pushed through, powered through whatever conflicts that have come up in the relationship, that's when the relationship is going to have such a beautiful outcome. Because as a super moon, as you can even see in this card, this bright, vibrant energy, that's what I'm seeing as the final outcome in your connection, where both of you are drawn towards each other, and it's a very exciting time that you have with each other, this exciting energy that you both share with each other. And even this card also tells me that once all of these conflicts are resolved, once you both get to see each other's point of view, and when you come together to work on this connection, that's when it's going to be such a blossoming connection for you, and it's definitely going to give you that sense of fulfillment that you're looking for. But again, as I've been saying in this reading, that ultimate sense of fulfillment that this relationship can offer you, that will only come when all of these other actions that have to be taken are something that you worked on. And this active work that I see this relationship requires, and this constant communication, checking in with each other, explaining your expectations to each other, and even when these expectations keep changing, and once all of that work has been put in, and this relationship has been something where you've known each other for a while and it steps into that deeper, beautiful connection, that's when it's going to have as bright of an energy as the super moon. So thank you so much for joining me for this reading, pile number 3. And if you want to book a personal reading with me, you can find all the details in the description below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in my next reading.